Cool, hi guys. Right, next is our posterior chain mobility. So the benefits of this is if you've got tight back or hips are tight from maybe sitting in a chair or driving a lot, from sitting down generally, then this will massively benefit you. So we're going to start with our active frog. We've got an intruder. So we're going to go down into all fours, knees as wide as we can take them, and then we want ankles in line with knees, toes pointing out to the side. There's two ways you can do this. You can do it with hands on the floor, it's a bit more uncomfortable, where you're sinking those hips back. If you want to be a bit more comfortable, down onto the elbows, you're just sinking those hips, trying to take those hips in between the heels, keeping that core tight, so we're not allowing that back to round, just taking that pressure on and off, so we're going in and out of that position. We do this for about a minute, so in and out of that position for about a minute, and then after that, we're moving on. Cool, thank you, Ellie. Cool, so pigeon, to get into pigeon, toes point move out to one side. The side that you've moved the toes to, that leg steps back and over. And we're keeping that rear leg extended. We're dropping chest down towards the floor as much as we can and hips pushing down to the floor. Our hands, 3 different positions. So we're taking the chest as low as we can. So we're either extending those arms overhead like Ellie is, up onto the elbows, or fully extending those arms, depending on where your hip mobility will allow you to get to. Cool, we're gonna hold that for a minute on each side before we move on. Good, from here we're gonna move into a deep squat against the wall. So if we watch Ellie, she's gonna get her bum as close to the wall as she can. So sideways on, bum as close to the wall as she can, rolls over into that squat position. She wants her feet just wider than shoulder width. Good, toes pointing up. And then she's bringing those heels down close to her bum. With her arms, she's going to raise them up over her head, trying to get the backs of her hands just resting onto the floor. Just going to hold that position, just relax in that position. You should feel it in the hips. So it's great, really, really nice. If you've got bands at home, it is possible to have the bands behind the waist and then hook that over the knees, and it just encourages those knees to open. If you haven't, you'll get exactly the same benefit from there. Cool, from there we are going to move on to our dynamic hamstring stretch. So Ellie's going to use that door, that cage door in front. Just needs something as a little bit of support. So all she's going to do, nice and upright, she's going to raise that knee up to 90 degrees and then try and extend that leg and then back and then down. When she's extending that leg, we don't want that knee raising up and down. It's going to wobble a tiny bit, but we don't want it massive. It doesn't matter if you can't straighten that leg. So in that movement, squeeze the bum, squeeze the tummy. Going to work each side 30 seconds. So she works one, she'll work the back. She'll be feeling it in the back of the leg. You may find one leg feels it a little bit more than the other. Cool, excellent. Thank you, Ellie. From there, we're going to move on to downward dog. Probably quite a familiar position for you guys, but now, rather than transitioning between downward dog and plank, we're just going to hold downward dog. So the main thing we're looking for, so if we just get side onto Ellie here, she's driving those heels towards the floor. Legs are straight, not necessarily locked, but they're straight, and she's driving those armpits to the toes. So she's working that shoulder mobility, and she's stretching that those hamstrings and that lower back. Cool, and you're just going to hold that position for about a minute. Obviously, if you need to, you can push into the plank just for a little bit of respite or just push forward. Hold very briefly, and then drive back into that downward dog position. Cool. Excellent. From there, we're going to use this post against the wall. We're going for the hamstring door frame stretch. So Ellie's going to lay on the floor, lay on the back. Imagine that that is a door frame. So her leg's going to point through. She's going to bring her hips as close as she can. She's going to have one leg extended. Her bottom leg, her lower leg, not great with that rack there, sorry, is extended. The more she shuffles her hips towards that weight rack, so into the door frame, if you imagine, the more she will feel that tension. I'm just going to hold that position there, and you'll feel a stretch in the back of that extended leg. Are we feeling that, Ellie?
Yep.
Good. Hold each side for a minute each side, and then we will move on. Cool. From there, we're going to go for a glute ball smash. She's going to sit on that ball. So it's going under her bum cheek. The leg that the ball is under, the side the ball is under is extended. The other leg is bent, and that is what is controlling that pressure. Just rolling around. It's probably quite uncomfortable feeling that pressure. If she finds a tight spot, she can pause, roll those toes down towards the floor. So point the toes and then rolling them to the side as well. To the outside, there we go, both sides. So it's just that rotation, that's what the glutes control of that knee. About 4 or 5 times, and then she rolls again. I'm just going to work each side for a minute. Good. From there, we're going to go into that seated piriformis stretch. So she's sitting on the floor, just sitting upright. Good. She extends one of her legs, and the opposite leg steps over across the body. Foot flat on the floor. She's now pulling that knee towards the opposite shoulder. So her left knee is going to her right shoulder. If it was her right knee, it would be going to her left shoulder. She's pulling, and she's just turning her chest towards there. She'll feel a deep stretch in that left buttock area. Great stretch if you suffer with sciatica. Hold that for a minute, and then we'll change sides. Next, we're going into the wall candle. So we're back to the wall. Similar setup to our deep squat. So she's going to sit with her, get her hips as close to the wall. And then rather than going into the squat, she's just going to have those legs fully extended. Quite similar to that door frame stretch, but now both legs are extended. She's going to relax her hands just down by the side or across the chest, wherever's comfortable, just relaxing into that position. If that's too tight, we want legs straight. So if you can't get, like Ellie's quite close there, if you need to, just shuffle your bum away from the wall and then you'll get comfortably into that position. Cool. Next, we are going into our half lotus on the wall. So just shuffle your bum back. We want knees about 90 degrees. The closer your hip bum is to the wall, the harder the stretch is, the more you'll feel that stretch. From there, one of her ankles comes up onto the knee. She relaxes her hips so they're down on the floor. She can use so it's her left knee. She can use her left hand just to push that knee towards the wall. You feel that deep stretch in the glutes and in the hip area. Hold that for a minute on each side before we change. From here, we're going into our cat-cow, cat-camel, whatever you want to call it. So just working a little bit on that back. So all fours, hands below the shoulders, knees below the hips. Suck that belly button up into, or suck that belly button up as we push that, arch that back up. Good. Hold for about 3 to 4 seconds before then you drive that belly button down towards the floor. 3 or 4 seconds. Breathing in as we go up, out as we go down. Good. Just loosen off that back. Doing that for about a minute in total. Next, we're going to move on to our V-sit. So sitting on the floor, legs as wide as possible. The dog is optional. And then from here, keeping the legs straight, we're just going to place hands onto the floor and just walk those hands forward, allowing the back to round, walking forward just until you can feel that stretch. You'll feel a stretch in the lower back and in the back of the hamstrings. I'm just going to hold that for a minute. If you need to, you're going to keep the stretch on, but just ease off slightly. So we're still keeping that stretch on, but then just going back in. Good. And then finally, our armless prayer. So we're onto all fours, knees ever so slightly wider than the hips. Hands just forward of the line of the forehead, sink the hips back, and then extending those arms. So you're trying to drive armpits towards the floor. Don't let your hips drive forward. And then to increase that stretch if we want to, if we're not feeling too much, we're going to drive up onto the fingertips like we're playing the piano, and you'll just feel that stretch. And you might not need to do that bit with the fingertips. It's just a little added bonus if you want to intensify that stretch. And you're going to hold that for a minute. And then that is it. That is your posterior chain mobility. Cool. Thank you.